Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, babies in their diapers, welcome to the Tiberius Show with your host, Tiberius Boy.
That's me, Tiberius. Today we're going to talk about some very awesome stuff. We have a video about golf, a book about the last kids on Earth, and I have a totally awesome guest. Today we have the one, the only, the amazing Trevor Simoneau. Trevor is a business owner, flight student, and is currently setting up to be the youngest person to solo circumnavigate the globe.
Thanks, Tiberius. It's great to be here. I'm looking forward to being on your show this afternoon.
Me too. And today we're going to start off with the video of the week, and this is going to be a swing.
And now it's time for the video game of the week.
Today's video game is Super Golf. So this is a game on the Roblox platform. It was made by Noisy Games. Because it is on Roblox, you ever learn on PC, Mac, Xbox, and even your cell phone. And it is free! But you start off the game and you are in a lobby. And while usually a game of golf may have already been started. But if there is, then you press play and you have to make your ball in the hole. If you have played golf, you would know how to get it into the hole. If you are a pro, you would know what speed to hit the ball to go into the hole. Then you have to hold your left mouse button to make the speed. Then, if you go too fast, then you would maybe go out of bounds or very slow and be stuck in the same position. If you win the golf game of 18 holes, you get a big prize. Well, to be honest, it could be a badge or something, but I've never won, so I don't really know what happened. So one time, I got a hole-in-one on a par of 6. Isn't that so cool?
That's impressive.
So it took a lot of hard work to do that shot. There was a ramp that had the hole after it, but you have to turn left, and then just do all these jumps and then turn right into the hole. But
Sure.
there's a lot of jumps in there, and I skipped them all and got it into the hole the first try.
Nicely done. That's impressive. Sounds like you're much better at golf than I ever was.
Well, I give Super Golf 8 out of 10 stars because it was so much fun and compete with my dad. But after a while, the game gets boring when there's nothing to do but get hole-in-ones. Over 40 years, Lighthouse Central Florida has provided education, independent life skills, and job training to thousands of Central Floridians who live with blindness or any degree of vision loss. Whether it's picking out clothes in the morning or just moving around your community and serving Orange, Simoneau, and Osceola counties. Contact Lighthouse Central Florida at 407-898-2483 or visit them online at lighthousecfl.org.
The Tiberius Show would like to thank one of their dedicated sponsors, Custom Designs Orlando. These guys are on Mills Avenue and do all sorts of stuff, ranging from photo ID badges, engraved signs, custom braille ADA signs, vinyl lettering to trophies and awards. The cool part about Custom Designs is they can ship products all over the United States. You can reach them at 407-898-0373 and tell them that
Tiberius
sent you.
Now it's time for the book of the week, The Last Kids on Earth, The Zombie Parade. This book's written by Max Burler. Remember to the back of the book. In fact, Trevor, would you like to do the honors?
I'd be happy to. All right. The zombies are disappearing. This might seem like a good thing since zombies eat your brains, but normal human kid Jack Sullivan is suspicious. He keeps hearing an eerie shrieking noise that seems to be almost summoning the zombies out, but to where? And for what probably foul purpose? Jack, his 3 best friends, maybe the only people left on Earth, and their pet monster Rover need to get to the bottom of this. Along the way, they encounter a lot more than they bargained for, including a giant Warmongulus, a pizza parlor, monster hangout, an ancient evil who destroys worlds, and a stereo system that is totally the bomb. Can Jack figure out why the zombies are vanishing before he and his friends are next? Wow. That sounds scary.
Wow, that is really cool. Well, this is an AR book and is worth 4 whole points. It's made for 4th grade, but 0 month. You can get this book at the library or on Amazon. This is a good series about the last kids on Earth. Well, this time they were being chased by a humongous worm named Blarg. He can dig underground and pop inside buildings and chew up people. Isn't that crazy?
That is wild. I certainly wouldn't want to live in that world.
Oh, it's actually Earth, but it's a different kind.
That version of Earth, I should say.
Yes. So first off, Jax decides to split up the team. Well, that was a really bad choice. They learned quickly that they were better off working together. So somehow they get back together. They're at an end of the mall that they were stuck in. Then Blarg came and then died straight away when Jack destroyed his stomach with this cool bat blade.
Oh my.
Afterwards, this random dude shows up. Is he a monster or a human? Then they had to go to this pizzeria and see a lot of monsters, and then they lift Jack up because he killed Blarg. So he had to earn their respect. There's more to the story, but you need to read the book yourself. I give The Last Kids on Earth, The Zombie Parade, 10 out of 10 stars because I really like that he defeated Blarg. See Tiberius Law.com.
You can call him at 407-801-2667.
Wait, you are not Chuck.
My dad can help when people get hurt. He loves to help people.
If you are ever injured at work or in a car accident, you should call my friend Chuck.
You can call him at 407-801-2667.
The website again is cwsmithlaw.com.
Offices, Orlando.
Does it actually have that much W's?
MidState Fire has been providing top-quality fire equipment services for 3 generations to the Central Florida area. Don't wait for an emergency to repair. Call MidState Fire today at 407-246-8855. Get your fire extinguishers and emergency lighting for both your home and businesses by visiting www.midstatefire.com. That number again is 407-246-8855. And now it's time for the interview of an interesting person. Today's guest is going to be so much fun. Today we have the one, the only, the amazing Trevor! How do you say your last name?
Simoneau, Trevor Simoneau.
Ooh, cool. Trevor is a business owner, flight student, and is currently setting up to be the youngest person to solo circumnavigate the globe. Isn't that so cool? So first up, how are you enjoying being on the show?
I love being on the show, Tiberius. This has been a ton of fun. You do a great job hosting the show.
Okay, so I have to ask, for my listeners that are younger, what does solo circumnavigate the globe mean?
That's a great question. So flying a solo circumnavigation means that I'm actually going to be flying around the world.
Ooh.
So making stops in dozens of countries, all sorts of different cities, and flying a small airplane across oceans. In total, the trip will be about 23,000 nautical miles, which is a really, really long distance. And so that's what circumnavigating means, to circle the globe. Same thing that Christopher Columbus did, Amelia Earhart. You hear a lot about a lot of different people circumnavigating the globe.
So how long will it take?
So the trip itself will take about 3 months, give or take, and that's because this isn't by any means a speed record or anything like that. As I'm actually traveling around the world, my plan is to visit schools, elementary, middle, and high schools, and host all sorts of cool STEM hands-on workshops to try and inspire kids just like you, your age and older, to get interested in aviation and all the cool opportunities that the STEM, science, technology, engineering, and math, all of the cool opportunities that those fields have to offer.
Did I just hear math?
You did hear math, that's right.
Ooh, that's
I hear that's one of your favorite subjects.
Yes, it is. Ooh. So that means no one is in the airplane with you. Can anyone fly side by side of you to make sure that you are safe?
That's a good question. And some people in the past who have flown around the world have had what's called a chase plane, which, like you said, is a second plane that kind of follows behind you, not too close, that follows behind you and follows along. I'm not planning on having a chase plane, but I will be meeting people in the different countries that I'm visiting on the ground at the airport.
Okay. So what got you interested in being a pilot?
It's a great question. I grew up right here in Central Florida, and when I was growing up, when I was your age, the space shuttle program was still around. Have you ever heard of the space shuttle?
No.
Have you ever seen a space shuttle? Oh, wow, I feel old now. Oh, my goodness. And so the space shuttle, I grew up in its heyday, really, and We basically attended every single launch from the time I was born until the time the program ended back all the way in 2011. It's a long time ago now. I wanted to be a space shuttle astronaut. That's what I wanted to do, to go to space and go to the International Space Station and maybe Mars someday. And while that does still interest me, back in 2011 when the program ended, there were no opportunities really to go into space and for commercial space travel. Or any jobs for astronauts, at least at that time. Now that's changed. And so I did some research on the astronauts that I looked up to as mentors, as heroes, people that I really looked up to for inspiration. And a lot of them started out flying in general aviation. And you hear the term general aviation, a lot of people think about aviation as the airlines. Somewhere that you go for a vacation or a trip or work or whatever it may be to go see family. And so there's this whole separate part of the industry called general aviation, flying small airplanes, 2-seater, 4-seater, 6-seater, single engine, some have 2 engines. And I had never heard of general aviation. I didn't know anything about planes at the time. And so I thought that was really cool. And so on my 10th birthday, when I was 10 years old, my parents actually surprised me with what's called a Young Eagles flight. And Young Eagles is this really cool program where pilots actually volunteer their airplanes and their time to take kids, I believe it's ages 8 through 18, flying for free. It's a free introductory flight. And so my parents surprised me with one of those on my 10th birthday. And we went up, we flew around for about 20 minutes. We flew some maneuvers and I just fell in love. I was absolutely hooked. And I knew as soon as we got back on the ground that that's what I wanted to do.
Okay. Well, my dad told me that flying was for rich people. How did you get into it at such a young age?
A really good question. And it is true that aviation is very, very expensive. There's no doubt about that. And as I started, after that free Young Eagles flight and I started doing more research and my family and everyone, we started learning more about what it was going to take to go through flight training, get your private pilot certificate. Well, there was just no way that it was going to be a reality because it is very expensive. The airplane, fuel, everything like that. And so about a year later, when I was 11 years old, I actually started a business called Chart It All. We create customized aeronautical chart products. So an aeronautical chart is a pilot's map. It's how pilots navigate the skies. So flying from different airports to, from one airport to the next, learning how to stay clear of terrain, those sorts of things. And so we actually put charts on shirts, phone cases, and so that was the business that we started to fund flight training and ultimately college, because as I'm sure you'll learn very soon, college is also very expensive, and there are lots of great scholarships out there. And so I funded my flight training through a combination of Chart It All and flight training scholarships that I applied for and won.
So you started a company to fund your training.
Mm-hmm.
Was it hard to get it started?
Absolutely, and at the time, I was 11 years old. I didn't really know anything about starting a business. My parents had no idea how to run a retail business. This was very new for all of us, and we spent quite a bit of time in research and development, figuring out, what's going to work for a product, what doesn't work. The same thing that, most businesses go through when they're getting ready to launch a new product or something like that, or launch even a new business. And so for the first couple of years, it was actually more of a hobby than a full-time job or a major business, right? And so after about two and a half, close to 3 years, things started to really kind of take off. And so we now work with Sporty's Pilot Shop. They sell our products. They are basically the Amazon of aviation. Huge pilot store. We go to Oshkosh every year, which is the world's largest air show. Over 600,000 people from around the entire world come to Oshkosh, and so we exhibit there. And Chart It All has actually just started to really take off, especially in the last year and a half. And it's really cool to see. And what I love about it is it's about a lot more than just a cool product, right? Because we do have a lot of really cool products, but it's also about inspiring kids, especially those, who don't have aviation parents. Neither of my parents fly. My dad's a photographer, my mom is a teacher. Neither of them have any aviation background. And showing kids that it is possible to get into aviation, even with the extra costs and the barriers that are present. There are ways to make that happen, and that's very true for whatever your dream is, whether it's to be a pilot, astronaut, scientist, mathematician. It really doesn't matter.
Okay, so what gave you the idea to print maps on clothes?
So it's actually a pretty cool story. When I was growing up, I had a little, when I was 10, that year Santa Claus brought me a little flight simulator, little desktop simulator. And so I started flying that and had a blast and hours on end to learn how to fly maneuvers and just basic characteristics of the airplane, that sort of thing. And so I started to learn about aeronautical charts, the charts that pilots use. And so I was planning a flight one day for the simulator. My mom walked by and noticed the chart. And keep in mind, she isn't in aviation. She doesn't know what it is, and just thought it was really cool. And so we took a Sharpie, on the printed out chart, and took a Sharpie, drew the outline of a shirt on the chart, and that's how it was born. This is a cool concept. How do we make this happen now?
Wow. So does it take a lot of training to be a pilot?
There is a lot of training, and a lot of it, starts out very young. And what a lot of people might not know is you can actually solo, meaning flying by yourself, a glider, which a glider is an airplane without an engine. So it has all the characteristics of the airplane, all the same parts, except there isn't an actual engine. So it's pretty cool. You have another airplane tow you up to altitude, and then you release the tow rope, and the airplane goes back and lands. And you use thermals, which basically rising energy, rising heat, to gain altitude, to climb up and without an engine. It's really cool. You can actually solo a glider at 14 years old. So you can be very young and solo a glider. And so I actually applied for and won a glider flight training scholarship when I was 13 and started training in gliders when I was 13. And I soloed when I was 14. And so flying a glider solo is one of the coolest things because it's incredibly quiet. It's really just you and Mother Nature up there, right? And because there's no loud noise from the engine or anything like that. And so, a lot of people, Sully, actually, if anyone is familiar with the Miracle on the Hudson story, Sully started out in gliders. So flight training can start at a very young age. And what's great about the glider world is it teaches you really just the basic fundamentals of what pilots call stick and rudder skills. So, how to turn, how to climb, how to descend, how to recover from a stall, all the basic things. So that way, when you transition to powered aircraft training, which is what I have just finished recently, now you just have to learn how to manage the engine, right? And so the flight training process itself, past gliders, getting into actual airplanes with engines, you can solo an airplane, a single-engine airplane, at 16 years old, and then you can get your certificate, your private pilot certificate from the FAA. The FAA is the Federal Aviation Administration. They're the government agency that oversees the aviation industry, and you can get that certificate from them when you're 17 years old. So the basic training requirements, you have to have a total of 40 hours with a flight instructor. You have to complete certain cross-country flights, which a cross-country is a flight of 50 nautical miles or more. You have to have a certain number of solo hours, certain endorsements to prove, flight training has been completed. There's a whole syllabus that you go through. You learn how to, obviously take off and land, how to perform maneuvers in the air. So not just turns and things like that, but certain emergency scenarios as well. So recovering from stalls, spins, if you have an engine failure, how to deal with those sorts of problems, things like that. And then as training progresses, you get a little bit more advanced into some navigation things, and you start going places and using aviation to travel and go explore cool airports around the state, even the country, really. And so as your training progresses, you finally, once you mastered everything, you go and start preparing for what's called a check ride. And the check ride is when someone from the FAA comes and flies with you and just makes sure that you're safe, and that you all the boxes have been checked, and that you are good and ready to go as a pilot. And then after that, you get your certificate.
Okay. So when you talk about flight hours, is that how long you have been in the air, or how many times you take off and land?
That's a really good question. So flight hours, there are actually two ways to log it. One way is to log from the time that you start the engine on the ground, taxi time and everything like that. Taxiing is when you're, basically, flying the airplane on the ground, so to speak, taxiing out to the runway. And so, or you can log your flight time based on when you take off and then when you land. A lot of pilots do it from the time engine starts, because even though you're not actually flying, you're still running through checklists, you're still in command of the airplane, you're still, flying it, so to speak, on the ground. In fact, just as important on the ground to be have situational awareness and know how to control the airplane as it is up in the air. And so Those are kind of the two ways to log flight time. And then you mentioned takeoffs and landings. We also log those. And so there's a law that requires pilots of any level, doesn't matter if you're a private pilot or if you fly for an airline, to have at least 3 takeoffs and landings in what's called the preceding 90 days. That means in the previous 90 days. So every 90 days, at least, you have to go and do 3 takeoffs and landings. So you take off, you go flying, and then you come back and you land. And you have to do that at least 3 times. And that's to make sure that you stay what the FAA calls current, right? Because if I go up and fly on, at the beginning of January, and I don't fly again until June, those 6 months, I've probably lost a lot of those stick and rudder skills. Sure, I can still tell you the knowledge, but if you're not actually flying consistently, you do kind of lose some of those skills. And so that's why the FAA has that law. So we do have to log those takeoffs and landings. We have a log book that we keep track of all of our flights in and things like that, where we go, what altitude, things like that.
Now, I'm a little afraid of heights, but I have been on a plane before. Are you afraid of heights? Is it still okay to be a pilot?
Absolutely. I'm not personally afraid of heights, but I do know several friends who either are afraid of heights still or maybe were at one point. And so, yeah, absolutely. You can definitely be a pilot if you're afraid of heights. In fact, there are several astronauts who are afraid of heights.
Okay. So what do you plan to do with your skill as a pilot? Are you going to do fighter jets or fly commercial airplanes?
So I don't actually plan on going through and becoming a commercial pilot for like an airline. I do hope to go through and get what's called an ATP, an airline transport pilot certificate. But I actually want to work in a separate side of the aviation industry, aviation law and legislation. Basically what that means is I'd be working with organizations that help advocate for the general aviation industry up in Congress, when rule changes might need to be made for different safety reasons, training standards, things like that.
Okay. Well, do you have a website or Facebook for my listeners to want to follow you?
Sure. So you can follow me on YouTube, Instagram, and Twitter. And my YouTube channel is just my name, Trevor Simoneau. My last name is Simon, plus EAU. It has all the vowels except for sometimes Y. That's a little nerdy grammar fact. And then you can also follow me on Instagram, Trevor Simoneau, Twitter, Trevor J. Simoneau, just my name. Give me all those sorts of things. And you can follow along. I like to post all sorts of cool flying adventures all over the country. And so, yeah, definitely.
Thank you, Trevor, for being my special guest. Can you stick around for Math Corners?
Absolutely. And Tiberius, thank you. This has been a ton of fun.
Aw, Dad, my computer's slow again and I can't play my games.
Call Your Computer Solutions today, and we will scan for viruses and clean that computer up remotely and make it fast again. Our phone number is 407-826-0810.
Thanks, Dad. My computer's fast again. Now I can do my homework. Thanks for calling Your Computer Solutions at 407-826-0810. The Tiberius Show would like to thank Boggy Creek Airboat Adventures for being one of our sponsors. I got to go on an airboat and saw a real gator. I even got to go to the gem mine and mine for some gems. We ate a steak dinner at the restaurant and even got some gator bites. If you want to have a blast with the entire family, I suggest you go to www.bcairboats.com right now to get your tickets today. The website again is bcairboats.com. Oak Ridge Gun Range is a family-oriented shooting range that has been in business for over 30 years. They specialize in basic firearm training and offer numerous services such as consignments, gun trades, gunsmithing, and concealed weapon classes. I even got my training for gun safety at Oak Ridge Gun Range. Great customer service, and firearm safety is what they do best. So find out more at oakridgegunrange.com.
Tiberius' favorite subject, it's Math Corners!
Thank you, Trevor, for helping me with Math Corners. Today we're going to talk about one-digit quotients. See, most division is even, but what happens if it is not? Oh my. Let's say you have 33 people to get over a river, but the raft can only hold 4 people. How many round trips would the raft have to take to get all of the people? Now you start off by taking 33 people and dividing them by 4. So you know that 4 times 8 is 32, so you start with the 8 and figure out the remainder. So you take the 32 and subtract it from the 33, and then you get 1. So you have 8 round trips with 4 people on the raft, and 1 round trip with only 1 person. So the answer is 9 round trips. Now you notice that I said round trip. This is a trick that my dad showed me. Sometimes the word problem will say trip, but remember, on the way back, there are no people on the raft. So using the word round trip stops mistakes that people might not accounting for the trip back. So Trevor, do you now know all about one-digit quotients?
I do, thank you.
Well, you're welcome. Well, do you use that at your work?
I do, absolutely. Almost every day.
How?
Well, when we're flying, we have to calculate our distance, our speed, and our time. So how far are we going to fly? How quickly are we going to get there? And how long is it? Distance, speed, and time. And then how fast we're going. And so we use quotients all the time to calculate those different things.
I would say how to use division is how to make the density of the plane. Like the mass and the weight of the plane into density. So that's how I would technically use math in planes. So.
Yeah, we do. We do use division sometimes when we're calculating the weight and balance of the airplane, how heavy it is.
Well, thank you, Trevor, for your help with Math Corners.
No problem. Great job.
Well, now it's time for the Heart of a Lion. As you know, we talk about the qualities of living by a heart of a lion, which stands for leadership, integrity, obedience, and nobility. This week, we're going to talk about leadership. For me, I think leadership is the act of loving what is good, having self-control, and being disciplined. The qualities of leadership are providing guidance and direction, organization, and being a positive influence on others. So my friend Ryan, who is my classmate, was using leadership this week by getting us to listen to the teacher while she is talking. We also need to be doing our work. It is important that we stay on track so that we can get good grades and also get a 25-point party. This is a party designed to reward the class for following Lion Strong and following directions. So Trevor, did you see or use leadership at all this week?
I did, and in fact, I use leadership quite often. In fact, I'm very lucky to see leadership quite often as well. This week in particular, I'm actually working with a really cool team of people from a place called the Commemorative Air Force. We are putting together an event called Intro to Aviation that's designed for Girl Scouts that we're going to be hosting this weekend. It's a virtual event, and the people that I'm lucky enough to work with come from the best of the best in the industry. We have airline pilots, flight instructors, just really cool people from all over the country, and we've all been able to work together to put together what I think is going to be a really exciting event to help inspire young girls to get into aviation. There are so many awesome opportunities for women in aviation right now, and so that our goal is to really reach out and kind of be a mentor for them to get them interested in aviation and do what we can. So it's been cool to, everyone's been able to kind of bring their own collaborative ideas to the table, all sorts of cool ideas and concepts, because it is virtual, right? It's not in person, which does make things a little bit more difficult, the time that we're living in. And so, my mom, who's the education director at the Commemorative Air Force, Christy, Heather, all of these wonderful people, we've all been able to show quite a few leadership skills and make this happen.
Okay, well, we should always try and be lion strong in everything we do. Shouldn't we, Trevor?
I agree, absolutely. I mean, so many parts of the lion strong concept are just crucial, and leadership is one of the best qualities that you can have.
That's our show, folks. I want to thank the one, the only, the amazing Trevor Simoneau for being on my show.
Thank you, Tiberius. It's been great.
It has been so much fun talking with you today, and I hope one day I might get to fly with you if I face my fears about heights.
Yeah, are you a little afraid of heights?
Yep.
A little bit?
Very. And be sure to listen to us next week on the Tiberius Show with your host, Tiberius Boy.
The Tiberius Show is not filmed in front of a live studio audience. Executive producer, Joseph Boy. Production editor, Pierre Laguerre. Green Room manager, Danny Boy. and your program host, Tiberius Boy. The Tiberius Show is copyright 2018.